side. This one? Yeah.
You got a spot?
Yeah, right now. I do. I'm in the right box. I got it. Maybe do a mic check? can rest.
Is that going to be stable?
No. Carl has
A clip?
some kind of a thing. See, the piece that comes
Oh,
out
I
here
see.
broke.
Yeah.
Or it's somewhere in the
Make
bottom
sure
of my
it doesn't
bag.
fall when he's talking, or that would
Yeah,
really
no, I don't
suck.
want that.
What's the name?
Get Kirsten. Get To my left is the mother of Eric Garner, Ms. Gwen Carr. To right behind her is attorney Michael Hardy, who's executive vice president and general counsel of National Action Network and has been involved with the legal team for the Garners since the beginning. And behind me to my right, Minister Kirsten John Foy, Northeast Regional Director of National Action Network. This morning, we were informed that the Police Department of the City of New York has now informed the Justice Department that if they do not move forward, that they would proceed with disciplinary hearings against this officer that was responsible for the death of Eric Garner with a chokehold. Tomorrow is the 4th anniversary of Eric Garner's death. This family has had to bear the pain and the burden for 4 long years and have maintained the dignity and maintained the cause of standing up against police misconduct for the last 4 years. As they prepared tomorrow and on through the weekend to commemorate his life again, we now get the NYPD to move forward on the disciplinary hearings. When the case originally happened, it was the position that the Department of Justice needed to have the first crack. But Ms. Carr and the family said many months ago that they wanted the disciplinary committee to, disciplinary action to move forward. And finally, that has been announced today. It is a move in the right direction, but it must move forward. The Attorney General should still move forward on federal charges, and according to the examination of the letter that we've seen sent to DOJ, that they will then back up and allow them to do it. It seems the height of hypocrisy that the Justice Department is going to reopen a case on Emmett Till that's 60 years old and will not move forward on a case that's 4 years old. And we have someone that clearly violated the police policies in this city. Let me be very clear that when this police hearing goes forward, Daniel Pantanello is not the only one on trial. Chokehold policy of NYPD is on trial because the NYPD must send a clear message that it will back up what it says. And for this officer to have remained on payroll for 4 years after clearly and admittedly being involved in this is something that has been painful to the family and insulting to the community. We intend to rally around this family as we have for the last 4 years. Let me also make it clear that mothers of the movement, victims, mothers and family members from around the country, National Action Network under the leadership in New York of Kirsten John Foy will be bringing them in to stand with the Garner family during these proceedings. We are calling on 100 ministers to sign up and go with us. We want the presiding officer to see the breadth of this community. Many activist groups, many law groups, and many groups that have fought against police brutality and that have called for this action, that have called for the CCRB to be able to move, all of them will be present and moving forward. This should have happened long ago. We are glad that it happened now. But we are saying that it should have been moved forward a long time ago, and the federal government is still, and I repeat, still, the ones that should be moving on the charges of what was done. It is insulting to us that the district attorney in Staten Island that would not indict and bring this to a court was just renominated to go to Congress, while Gwen Carr and the Garner family will go to the graveyard to visit the grave of Eric Garner. So as we prepare this weekend, on Saturday, we will be starting at the House of the Lord Church in Brooklyn, then going Prospect Park. Sunday, 2 churches in New Jersey, and then going with Ms. Carr to the cemetery. Let us be real clear that this family will never be able to replace Eric, and this city will never be able to replace the scar if this officer remains on payroll after violating policy and causing this death. Let me ask Ms. Carr to give some remarks.
Yes, it's been 4 painful years that we're still fighting and there's no justice. We are calling on the de Blasio administration. We got the letter today, saying that they are going to move forward, and we want to see this done. We want it to be done swiftly. We don't want politics to play a part in this. We just want justice for my son Eric. And it's not only for Pandaleo, it's for the other 5 officers who was involved, their misconduct, the ones who lied on legal documents saying what had happened to my son before the video came out. And we are here, as Reverend Sharpton says, we don't want it to be watered down. We want a trial and we want justice. And I can't tell you how it feels to stand here. This is going to be the 4th anniversary without my son. And it's so painful being that it's tomorrow. Tomorrow marks the 4th anniversary, and I still have sleepless nights. I still have nightmares. I have, pain, dark nights, and I have dark days. Some are good, but most are not so good. But I'm going to continue this fight. That's why I want everyone to know, the politicians, the lawmakers, everybody to know that I'm in this fight for the long run. And I'm so glad I have so many committees that stand behind me. The Nan family with Reverend Sharpton, the Justice Committee, many churches in Jersey that stands behind me, Christian Love and New Hope. And I just want to say to you, de Blasio, please move forward on this and fire those officers, all of them, not just Pandaleo. We want them all fired. They all was misbehaving on that day. Thank you.
Let me also say that one of the things that we have done is supported Councilman Lackman's bill to criminalize chokeholds. And this disciplinary action should cement that from the department, but the council ought to make it law. And that is one of the things that we hope comes out of it. From the beginning, the Thursday that Eric was choked to death, I talked that night with Gwen Carr, and that Saturday we brought 1,000 people to Staten Island. A couple of Saturdays later, we brought thousands. We've been in this from the beginning. We're going to be there until it ends. And she's been all over the country standing with other mothers, as well as other members of the Garner family have stood there. And I think this city will never be able to repay the dignity that they have portrayed during this painful period. The legal team includes Attorney Michael Hardy. You may want to say something.
Well, I would just echo what's been said. You know, the Garner family really has cooperated with every investigation along the way. That included the investigation in Staten Island, and that certainly included the in-depth investigation by the Department of Justice. And of course, we were very patient with them, worked with them all the way through. Several months ago now, almost, well, at least several months ago, after a year of waiting, we got the leak that those investigators have actually recommended that an indictment go forward, and yet Jeff Sessions and that Department of Justice refuses to move forward. That's disgraceful, and so at this point, it's only it's understandable that the department has made the request, that the NYPD has made the request that it's made. But this family should not really have to go another day and have justice denied. And as we have always said, justice denied anywhere is justice denied everywhere, which is why Gwen has stood with so many other families that have stood to seek justice in these situations.
I might reiterate that when written reports came out, leaked to the press, not leaked to us, so you don't distort what Attorney Hardy said, that is when the family notified the city that they wanted them to move forward. I talked to the mayor this morning and told him that I felt that this was long overdue. I'm glad to see they're moving forward. This is something the family wanted when it was clear after months and months of meetings and interrogation that the federal government was dragging his feet. Minister Kirsten John Foy will be organizing ministers as well as victims from around the country to be in New York for the hearings.
As Reverend Sharpton has indicated, we are going to have a robust presence at both the trials and all of the events leading up to the trials to make sure that the case of Eric Garner is front and center in the consciousness of the city. And we will be additionally continuing to work with Councilmember Rory Lanceman on making sure that his chokehold bill gets the just due that it deserves and the attention that it deserves in the City Council. Thank you.
We'll take some questions.
Reverend Sharpton, do you believe this move by the city threatens to antagonize the DOJ, and if so, does that concern you?
What should concern the DOJ is the public reports that the investigators for the federal government had recommended an indictment and they did not proceed, and that the city is moving forward and says in the letter, since they did not proceed, it is troubling, and it should be troubling to them, that they can go and deal with cases decades old but can't deal with a case that is right, current, in front of the nation's face. Let's remember, before Ferguson, about 2 or 3 weeks, Eric Garner happened. Eric Garner was the first case that started a whole new surge around police brutality. And in fact, I was at the march for Eric Garner when the family called me from Ferguson to come there. This case is a watershed case on police misconduct in this nation, and the Justice Department has failed to address it in a criminal case.
Ms. Carter, Jim Dolan for Channel 7. Do you, given all the time that has passed, do you have any faith left in the Justice Department investigation?
I'm always going to have faith because the whole world seen what happened to my son. It was recorded on video, so of course I have faith that they are going to make the right decision.
The DOJ has already released a response to that initial statement saying that this doesn't change their timeline at all in their investigation. What do you make of that statement?
Well, the question is, what kind of timeline are they on? I do not know. I think it's a statement that says nothing because clearly they are not using watches. They're using sand in a jar kind of timeline. And I think that we need to move forward. And again, the city made it clear they would defer to them if they would move on. They've seen the front page New York Times leaks that Attorney Hardy referred to, where the investigators, in an unprecedented way, said they wanted an indictment. An indictment doesn't convict them. All the family has asked for is a fair trial.
Exactly.
And they've not been able to do that. So I don't know what timeline they was on. I know that there is a problem with, they're dealing with a lot of cases of people of color. And I see that they've got a lot of their hands tied with Russian stuff.
And just to follow up to that, now the investigation is going to happen in New York with the NYPD internally. What would be your next response if they find the officer liable or unliable?
I think the response would be, we don't want to forecast a response and play into his defense, but I think that clearly they would have to explain why they had a policy against chokeholds. And there's a tape where he clearly said he performed a chokehold, and clearly her son said 11 times, "I can't breathe." So I think they'd have a lot that they would have to explain in that trial.
Reverend Sharp. Apologies, Jay Dow, WPIX. Based on
I know who you are, Jay. I grew up with Dolan, so.
based on the statements made by federal prosecutors supporting moving forward, what do you attribute Attorney General Sessions' continued decision to not...
Politics. I mean, I think that Quinn Carr said it. When you look at Attorney General that came in and stopped the consent decree that the same Justice Department he took over had given in Baltimore would not move forward in Chicago, it has been a clear signal from this Justice Department that they do not believe in holding police accountable to the law. We're not asking for favors. We're talking about the law.
Maya to the Wall Street Journal. In the 90s, the NYPD fired Officer Lodi even as the federal investigation was ongoing. In this case, they said they were waiting for instructions by decision to keep it ongoing. What are your thoughts on the differences in how the police department...
Again, I don't know. I was involved in the Lodi movement. I don't know why the federal government, in the case of, I think at that time, Eric Holder was in charge, wanted to wait, which was different than the federal government in the 80s. But the fact is we're moving forward now, and we intend to make sure that justice is served. But clearly it is a very big difference in the Anthony Byers case. And Ms. Byers has worked with Ms. Carr. She's been around there. She was here the other week. We marched in that case. But we are not tired. If they thought we were going to go away, that's why we're here, and Ms. Carr's here today. We're not going away.
Not by no means.
Cedar Antanasio, New York Post. The city's moved forward with racial bias training for some officers. It's largely unproven, and I wonder, Reverend Sharpton, what your metric...
What is largely unproven?
The racial bias trainings in the police force.
What do you mean it's unproven?
People don't know what the outcomes of it are. It hasn't been scientifically measured, and so I'm interested...
So say that. Don't say it's unproven, because the connotation is that racial bias is unproven, and that's not been found, has it?
Well, my question for you...
No, I asked you a question. Your statement that it was not founded is not an appraisal that racial bias was not found, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I just want us to be right. This is a house of justice. This ain't the New York Post headquarters.
What will you be looking for as a measurement of whether or not those trainings are successful or not successful?
I think that's another issue. I think that what I'll be looking for in these proceedings is whether or not an officer can choke somebody in violation of police policy and keep his job. That's the issue here. Not racial bias, not training, whether or not he can choke someone to death and keep his job and work in the city. That's what we'll be looking for here.
David, the policy...
You changed seats, but same person. Go ahead.
The policy that keeps police officers' information
It should be released in this trial. We want it all out.
My question is, there's been calls to have it removed or, augmented in some way to increase transparency. So that hasn't been the case in the last 4 years. What is your...
We've always said that it should be transparent. Ms. Carr, Nan, many groups should be transparent. In a disciplinary action, though, it must be transparent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.